The milk is just so creamy and delicious. It must be the human suffering that goes into it that really just, kicks it off a little extra.
I am the milkman. My milk is delicious. Special delivery today.
Hello friends, trace amounts of science. Welcome back. Today we're trying something new. Once again, heading over to Amazon, checking out some reviews. These ones specifically are for a whole gallon of Tuscan milk, which doesn't seem exciting, but so these reviews really get unhinged, and I'm sort of all about it. So let's take the ride together, shall we? I think Gubbins is moderately excited about this. Milk is one of his favorite foods. Are you ready, Gubbins?
Milk good. Gubbin eat many milk. You give milk now, Chief? Gubbins want milk?
Gubbins want milk. All right, here we go. H. Milkville says, good value, but it may result in a great American milk voyage. I think it's a reference to Moby Vic. Oh no, Moby Dick. I'm thinking about the fat people stories that we did. But you should go watch that. It's pretty good. Anyway, call me a newly converted Tuscan milk enthusiast. A few months ago, never mind when exactly, being flat broke and frankly bored with my everyday beverages, I found myself with an intense craving for Tuscan dairy whole vitamin D milk gallon 128 ounces. When I'm feeling down, moping around the sweaty corner store coolers and grumbling in the endless Starbucks lines, I'm tempted to go into the street and systematically knock people's milkshakes out of their hands. There's no better substitute than going on Amazon to order a sweet glass of that bovine nectar. I should have chose milk today.
Milk was a bad choice.
And so, I sat myself down, and I ordered it. Folks, it did not disappoint. Just as I was downing the cool glass, an old sea captain with a peg leg came by my kitchen window and asked if I might pour him a cup of some refreshing liquid. I passed him a mug of Tuscan dairy whole vitamin D milk gallon 128 ounce. It's a big mug.
In this house, we honor good old-fashioned values. We drink mug.
The moment it touched his lips, he spit it out in horror. He threw the glass to the ground and cried, "'Tis the white milk, the most monstrous poison of the 7 lacteal seas." "Many years ago, lad," said the old captain, "I took myself a milkin', and I lost mine own left leg in battle with such a milk jug as this one. 'Twas harrowing, for 'tis a specimen of infernal lacticity that hath ne'er seen the light of heaven. Since that day I have sworn to avenge myself by slaying that most vile creature, the Tuscan dairy whole vitamin D milk gallon 128 ounce. I explained, apologetically, that I'd already drank most of my Tuscan whole milk. I'm glad we stopped saying the whole thing. The captain fixed me with his piercing eyes under furrowed brows, as hard and distant as 2 glasses of cold milk. Soon enough, he had enlisted me to sail to the faraway lands from whence the Tuscan whole milk came, the exotic, tropical paradise of Roebling, New Jersey.
Not one place even remotely livable.
The landfills were full. New Jersey was full.
Oh yeah. As we neared its unhallowed shores, the waters we sailed in became opaque and thick, as though pasteurized and enriched with vitamin D. Our captain cackled. He had gone mad with lactose intolerance. We sailors shuddered as he paced the decks with his clumping gait, like a Tuscan cow in strange pastures. There we saw it, an enormous, milky apparition that we somehow knew despite its uncommon size, to be the original jug of Tuscan Dairy Whole Vitamin D Milk Gallon 128 ounce. It battered our ship's sides with its rough plastic exterior. Its red cap struck at the sailors, plunging them into the creamy liquid with nary a cookie to comfort them on their way. Our captain extracted his greatest harpoon, a rainbow silly straw about 3 feet long. He waited until the jug had uncapped, threatening to drown us in its calcium-rich stream. Then he launched himself over the side of the ship, piercing the opening with his harpoon. That was the last I saw of him. The milk was running through his gray hair as he drank the nutritionally complete liquid. Alas, our ship did capsize under the weight of its milky burden, but I lived to tell the tale. I had hidden a box on board containing a secret item that would help us later. The empty jug of Tuscan Dairy Whole Vitamin D Milk Gallon 128 ounce that I had bought on Amazon. Same day shipping.
Born in 1964, Jeffrey Bezos.
Perhaps I'd kept it as a reminder of the ephemerality of all that we consume, or of the chasm between our petty everyday concerns and the sublime horror of divine milk. When our ship sank, I floated on that plastic jug until I reached the shore. Forever a changed man. Arrived on time, but the packaging was damaged. Also, you have to read 300 pages on the history and taxonomy of milk before you actually get to drink it. 4 stars. Oh, bless you, Herman Milkville. I thought this was, impeccable. Gubbins, how did you feel about it? Do you get it, really?
Strong milk. Good. But strange story. Why old man hate big milk?
Yeah. Gubbins did miss the moral a little bit, but there's nothing wrong with that. We all take our own meanings and messages from things. That is not the only unhinged review, of course, however, so we'll dig for another one and see what it is we get. This next review is from D. Booth. It's called Tuscan Milk, Things You Should Know. 1 star. Damn, he really feels some type of way, doesn't he? I come here today to warn you about Tuscan Milk. I was friends with Tuscan Milk, aka TM, for a long time, and I will always remember the good times. Frisbee golf in the park, picking up chicks in the 7-Eleven parking lot, and watching horror movies were our favorite activities. As we passed through our late teens and went to college, Tuscan Milk took off on a different path that would change our lives forever. I remember Tuscan Milk coming into class, eyes the size of pinpoints, sweating profusely and feverishly scratching his handle. Tuscan Milk started wearing long-sleeve t-shirts, even in the middle of summer, and my friends and I, somewhat bewildered, became increasingly concerned. That's right, Tuscan Milk, this is an intervention. Then one day, Tuscan Milk disappeared. Oh, he didn't even make it to the intervention. Strangely, my car stereo, turntables, and VCR were all gone as well. We tried calling Tuscan Milk's cell phone. It was shut off. We tried Tuscan Milk's parents' house, and they hadn't seen him either. No one heard from or saw Tuscan Milk for a year and a half until one day, my roommate, Ronaldo, paged me with a 911, and I had a feeling I knew what it was about. I called Ronaldo, and he excitedly told me about how he'd seen Tuscan Milk just a few miles away from our house, and he was going to pick me up momentarily. I jumped in the car, and Ronaldo turned off his stereo, which had been pumping Pure Ecstasy Trance Hits Volume 2, and then I knew things were serious because he loved that CD.
If you see us in the club, we'll be acting real nice. If you see us on the floor, you'll be watching all night.
Ronaldo's a different kind of guy, but I dig it. We descended the hill, leading from our house to downtown, and took a right into what was widely known as a very rough area, rife with gangs, drug sales, ladies of the night, and violence. I asked Ronaldo where we were going, and he just looked at me, stone-faced, and kept driving. We made a left onto 15th and gradually came to a stop. Ronaldo glanced over at me, then out his window, And then I saw him. Tuscan Milk, leaning on a grocery cart full of bags of aluminum cans, his cap halfway off, his label faded and torn, looking absolutely beat to death. Ronaldo and I jumped out of the car and ran over to Tuscan Milk, who stared at us blankly and stood from leaning on the cart. $5, Tuscan Milk said. Anything you want, I'll do it for $5. Ronaldo and I looked at each other, confused, and then focused back on Tuscan Milk. I reached in my pocket and pulled out $5, handing it to him. Aye, come with me, Tuscan Milk said. Ronaldo and I looked at each other and shrugged. Then we followed Tuscan Milk. They're going out behind the love dumpster, ain't they? It's a sad story, you know? I really do hate to see Tuscan Milk's life headed this way. He led us down an alleyway where he looked over his shoulder at us, then leaned forward, his cap off, onto a dumpster. Ronaldo and I knew at that moment what things had come to for Tuscan Milk. He glared at us while we stood there shocked and said, What? You're not ready yet? Fine, I'll be right back. Tuscan Milk replaced his cap and walked around the corner. Moments later, we heard a ruckus following the sound of a slight spill, and we knew what had happened. Ronaldo and I waited a few minutes before walking around the corner, only to find Tuscan Milk lying on the ground, a quarter of the way spilled out onto the pavement, with a very small manila envelope with NBA stamped on it lying next to him. We loaded Tuscan Milk into Ronaldo's car and took him to the emergency room where we waited for what seemed like days. Eventually, a doctor emerged from behind the ER doors, only to tell us that Tuscan Milk, after struggling with a nurse, took off out of the back door of the hospital. And that was the last time that we saw Tuscan Milk. Might be for the best at a certain point, you know? I know you want to be a good friend, good person, but you can't help people who don't want help, you know? It's a fucking milk jug. Ronaldo and I arrived at home and decided to look Tuscan Milk up on our city's criminal offender database, and we were shocked at what we'd found. Tuscan Milk had been arrested over 36 times in the last year and a half for everything, ranging from possession, robbery, kidnapping, and forgery to the thing that shocked us the most, aggravated violation of another human being. See customer image section for proof. There's no images attached. He just forgot to attach them. We looked at court documents for several of Tuscan Milk's cases and found out that most of the time he was arrested after being found slumped against a building or in an alley, a needle sticking out of his handle, heavily under the influence of the old China White. It all made sense now. The eyes, the sweating, the scratching, the prostitution. It was clear at that point that Tuscan Milk would never be the jolly gallon of milk that we once loved and cherished as a trusted and valued friend. Damn, dude. Part of me wants to believe he can bring it back around. Come on, Tuscan Milk, pull yourself together! And upon finding Tuscan Milk here on Amazon, I felt that it was necessary to warn you that Tuscan Milk is a dangerous, unpredictable individual who, as is clearly evident, is more than willing to sell himself, likely to support his habit. Ronaldo, myself, and the rest of Tuscan Milk's old friends still care about him and don't want to hear about him on the news. So I ask you, please do not purchase Tuscan Milk. You are contributing to furthering the downfall of someone who was once a friendly, optimistic, bright white gallon of goodness, but has since become a monster and a threat to others and himself. Don't buy Tuscan Milk. Please. You know, your speech was so spirited that I can't help but be swayed. I don't think it ships to my country anyway. It is a weird sort of trolling that you're doing there. I don't know how to feel about it. How did this story make you feel, Gubbins? Probably a lot of different type of ways, you know?
Once Gubbins a friend too. Friend called Bloop. Bloop small, round, good at golf. But one day, Bloop goes strange. Start hanging around spoiled yogurt. Said just little ferment, no big deal. But then Bloop turned sour. Milk not destroy friends. Friends destroy themselves. Or maybe humans think too much about beverages. Gubbins not sure. Gubbins just want snack.
I think everybody has experienced, something similar to this. So adding a little levity to it can't be a bad thing, We will all remember Tuscan milk fondly. I am sorry about what they've become, though, It's gone a really weird way. But I knew what I was expecting walking in here. Anyway, let's see if we can find some more unhinged milk reviews. Here's a 5-star review from Brian Walker. Well, you've done nothing here. You've copy-pasted A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Real talk. You gotta be ashamed of yourself. Old as you is.
Do you know how long it took Herman Milkville to write his magnum opus? Do you know how long it take other guy, D. Booth, to tell us about the dangers of Tuscan milk? You wanted to be poetic, but you didn't want to put in the effort. So you put the most poetic thing that you could think of, which honestly isn't even that poetic. It's basic, it's rote, it's what everybody would expect you to put, which really goes to show me your lack of knowledge about literature, classic literature. You want to pretend to be some sort of savant, but you're just not. You wanted to participate in the joke, but you don't have any creativity. And I don't know, sort of I get that, but also take a good look inwardly. You know what I'm saying? Take a good look inwardly and find something that's worth putting on the page. A part of yourself that's worth fucking showing to people. It's not this. These are somebody else's words that you tried to make as your own, and I'm not mad about this whole thing, but it does upset me just a little bit. I'm not even going to comment on it. Gubbins isn't going to dignify it with an answer either. We're moving on. This one's from S.J. Steimer, a name actually worth remembering. Thank you very much. He didn't copy-paste this shit. 2 stars. Disgusted by Tuscan's exploitation of their workers. Not enough to give it 1 star, though, apparently. The milk is just so creamy and delicious. It must be the human suffering that goes into it that really just, kicks it off a little extra.
I am the milkman. My milk is delicious. Special delivery today.
September 21st, 1957. Daddy laid in bed, broken and debilitated. Less than half the man I knew just 10 years before, and probably only a fraction of the man that Mama remembered. The pain drove him sick. It ate away at his psyche. His nights were sleepless and agonizing. Hallucinations brought on by both the pain and the medication haunted him. The brothers and myself were constantly awakened by his verbalized fits of rage and pain. A week ago, we heard him screaming about death. But not death as in the natural end to one's life, but as a personification of something much more, much worse, and much more complicated than any of us could possibly understand. We couldn't make out the specifics of what he was saying, but he went on for 20 minutes or so, screaming and cursing until his voice gave out and usurped him into an exhausted slumber. The next morning, we gave him his 500 milligrams of Tuscan brand morphine. The only thing in the world that seemed to benefit him at all, even if their effects were not long-lasting. We asked him about his terrors, and he became lucid. "Death," he said tiredly, nudging his feeble head, which was too big for his shoulders and neck to bear, toward the corner of the room. "I can see him there, just sitting there." He went on to describe death to us. "He's a man," he said somberly. "He's a man with no face, no emotion." He said he was draped in black, and he was there now. He described it as being omniscient, but only he, so close to the end, could now visualize it. Death didn't laugh at him, nor threaten him, nor even speak to him. It merely existed. That was all it took to elicit such a hopeless rage. And a day later, Daddy would be dead. Dude, this is pretty fucking heavy for a milk review, I'm gonna tell you that. It really gives you some thoughts about your life and accomplishing things, and I'm sure Daddy wanted more, That's a shame. But thank God for Tuscan brand morphine.
Morphine administered.
Are you feeling it now?
And for 40 years, he spent in those Tuscan milk mines, breaking his back to put food on our table and a roof over our heads. You will never hear his name mentioned by any scholar when speaking about the great Tuscan milk rush of 1947 and 48, nor will you ever read about his exploits in any dime store pulp biographies. My father was just a pawn of the system, the Rockefellers and others like them. He never became wealthy, never became famous, never inherited a yacht, or became the owner of artificial flour mills all across Northern California. He was just a laborer, one of thousands that was used and exploited in those Tuscan death holes. For 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, he spent his life underground in cramped little pockets, mining the veins of earth for grade A whole milk, mere droplets at a time. Some considered him lucky, as he was one of the few who did not perish in those chambers, but if they knew what I know, and saw what I saw of those last torturous years of his life, I do not think those people would look upon him with envy. My brothers and I would sometimes venture into town and take great gazes at Nathaniel J.W. Tuscan's mansion and pasta salad bar, which sat perched on the top of Milk Mountain, the highest peak in the city. It sat there, defying all moral ethos, almost laughing at us. It was as if someone had erected a 700-foot-tall middle finger and doused it with fluorescent paint. My father had none of this, not even a millionth of a fraction of this. He died poor and hungry and in pain. He died in the smallest room of our 3-bedroom tool shed, living his last years almost no different than the conditions that he spent his life wallowing in. Tuscan and the Rockefellers still live up there on Milk Mountain. They still exploit their workers, forcing them to work in the most dire conditions, and they still pay them with Snackwell coupons, while they continue simply getting rich, selling their Tuscan whole milk for over $77 a gallon, enough to purchase a fleet of naval jets in this year we live of 1957. Thanks for reminding me. I did forget that it was 1957. I'd say don't ever buy from them. Don't ever touch their Tuscan whole milk. Don't ever support such evils. But I can't say it, at least not fully. Their milk is the best that I have ever chewed. Again, you're making me feel a lot of things with a milk review. I don't know, man. This is gold. This is gold. Shit like this is why the internet exists. Like, maybe somebody's buying the milk, but mostly people are just shit posting in the comments. I think that's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Tastes fine, but has a tendency to spray out of the mouth and occasionally the nose.
The best milk I've ever chewed. Okay, well, what are your thoughts on this one, Gubbins?
Humans go into deep earth to dig for milk. Wait, unless cows are also down there, hidden. Underground cow mines, Gubbins must go. Must save subterranean cows. Must free them from Rockefeller tyranny.
Okay, well, good luck. Gubbins thinks this cow is down there, and yeah, seriously, he left. Okay, well, episode doesn't stop. The show must go on. Let's at least see what else is on offer for today. This one's from A Reader, 3 stars. Challenging user interface, fantastic graphics. No, it's not about Civilization 7. It's Tuscan whole milk. It has been this whole time. The first thing that strikes you about Tuscan whole milk, I got the fully loaded 128 fluid ounce model, is the minimalism. I spent half an hour failing to find the power switch until my roommate, who's much more technical than I am, explained that Tuscan whole milk doesn't even have a power switch.
There are no instructions on opening the bottle. I had to throw mine away.
The user, he explained the design philosophy to me, shouldn't have to know whether his Tuscan whole milk is on or not, because that's not part of what he's trying to do. So the unit is always on. It stays in sleep mode until you use it, and then it goes into full power mode without any user intervention. Talk about Steve Jobs, only even more so. That's right, the guy that tried to cure his colon cancer by eating apples. He was a tech genius.
It's so sad Steve Jobs died of ligma balls.
But it's not easy on the user. I expected to be able to simply point and click, but I couldn't find a pour icon, and it turns out there isn't a trackpad or even a mouse. Instead, the user interacts with Tuscan whole milk through a handle. It's a gripping device built onto one side of the unit that you insert your hand into. It can be lifted or tilted. In a way, it's a very elegantly conceived design. The flow is controlled by the angle of tilt, and the flow destination by moving the unit as a whole via its handle to a target, bowl, glass, what have you. And it is an elegant design. That's why it's been around forever. It takes a little while to learn, but the pick up and pour metaphor is compelling and radically innovative. The biggest step forward in interface design since, I don't know, the glove. Yeah, not sliced bread. We can't compete with that, but the glove, I think we... Sure. Being fixated on the controlling metaphor isn't always a good thing, however. Users are used to point-and-click interfaces, and these should be provided as an option. And I was curious about what other software packages were available for the Tuscan whole milk, and how they would exploit the handle interface. Imagine my surprise when I discovered that there aren't any. That's right, there's no app store, no third-party vendors online, and even if you found a third-party app, you couldn't install it. There's no internet connectivity, not even a USB port. Tuscan whole milk is dedicated, single-purpose hardware. Yeah, that part is true. Apropos, another reviewer says he rooted and bricked his unit. Frankly, I'm skeptical. As far as I can tell, user access to the OS is completely blocked. I couldn't even get a shell terminal, and I don't see how he could have done it. Worse, Tuscan whole milk isn't rechargeable. There's no way to even plug it in. Once your Tuscan whole milk is empty, as indicated by the fluid level on the external display reaching the bottom of the unit, you're just supposed to throw it out. So it's not just single-purpose hardware, it's disposable.
Milk it for as long as you can.
Elegance is elegance, but this is taking a nice idea way too far. Although I'm disappointed with what was made of a very promising user interface concept, I have to mention the graphics, which almost make up for it. When you pour, the milk looks absolutely convincing. The algorithm team managed something really special here. Tuscan whole milk's gonna break the simulation, man. The animation was so good that it actually fooled my cat, who drank some of the Tuscan whole milk. Well, rest in peace to your kitty, I suppose. You're not supposed to drink those, kitty. Those are pixels. You can choke on it. It's so dumb. But I love it. For some reason, I love it. I want to do another one. Here's a 1-star review from Juan. Not as well written, I'll tell you that. There's no paragraphs, but I'll give it a try. Where do I begin with Tuscan milk? As you know, shopping for milk can be a troublesome task. Dean, Trumu, Great Value. So many to choose from. So many different jugs to consume lact from. I was bewildered. I was ecstatic. I was appalled. My simple mind should not have to be burdened with the decision of which lactee milk jug it shall put to this shopping trolley I'm currently leaning on. life is full of big decisions. This is not one of them. That is when I spy in the corner of my eye. I spy with my little eye a huge, and I'm talking huge, section of Tuscan dairy whole vitamin D milk gallon, 128 ounce, like the biggest section ever. I pushed my little shopping trolley over and realized at this moment that instead of packing my tiny cart full of this milk, I should engage in some good old capitalistic consumption, and instead order it from Amazon. I ordered like 30 pallets, I think, of the golden value, most coveted form of lactate, the Tuscan dairy whole vitamin D milk gallon, 128 ounce. I soon tore off my shirt in a fit of happiness and holiness, and opened the first jug, and poured and doused my body in it.
Milk, 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 they say it does a body good, that's why you must drink a lot of milk.
I was complete. I felt as though my sense of childlike innocence had returned, back to when the horrors of the world hadn't yet infiltrated my mind, back to when I didn't have bills to pay, classes to study for, or relationship problems, back to when I could hop on my PlayStation 3 with my best friend and play Battlefield 3 till midnight because it was the weekend and we didn't have jobs or responsibilities the next day. That seems really suspiciously specific, you know? I filled my pool with the 30 pallets of Tuscan dairy whole vitamin D milk gallon, 128 ounces, and invited my grandmother and step-uncle to bathe in God's milk with me.
I want to take a shower with him. No, I mean, make out with him. Just come on.
This is really weird. I don't think it was quite the vibe I'm looking for, but it is a vibe. We played Marco Polo in God's milk. We played Sharks and Minnows in God's milk. We had chicken fights in God's milk. We love God's milk. I am truly broken. Anyway, I didn't like it because the jug had a red cap, which makes me think of 1%, and I hate 1% milk. That buttery trash is not worthy of my godly palate. I could see the truth leaking through the satire, and you're a strange guy, Juan. I'll say that much.
You maniac! Only a fool would play God!
Good effort, but yeah, this is the bottom out of the ones that we read. Probably not as low as the Midsummer Night Dream guy, though. You are definitely better than that fuck. I hate that guy. Oh! Why have you contributed nothing of worth? Anyway, you want another one? I do. Sorry, Juan, but I gotta cleanse my palate. Here's one from Dr. Cornelius. 3 stars. My experience with Tuscan whole milk. I would like to tell a story about how I came across this Tuscan whole milk and why I only rate it as a 3-star product. It began while I was fixing the horizontal stabilizer on my Marsky Monarch. I was gliding over the Cape of Good Hope when I found a peculiar village. I decided this would be a fine location to land in order to see if anyone was in need of my free medical services. This is like Doctors Without Borders and with fucking hang gliders. What's going on? As I was adjusting the rudder and elevator to land on a thin dirt strip, I miscalculated adjustments and found myself barreling into a dry grass field just shy of the strip. My co-pilot, Mr. Lucas, a mute servant whom I employ over the summer seasons, shook me until I woke. Mr. Lucas is a good character already. We gathered the parts that detached themselves from the hang glider upon the crash landing and began reassembling the plane. Oh, is it a plane? The hell is a Marsky Monarch? Oh, it's like a single-seat, lightweight glider. I think hang glider still applies. Although you're not hanging. You got a place to put your butt, and that's important. Anyway, cool, back to the story. To my surprise, a group of tribal men walked up to us and made gestures for us to follow them into the village. I guess so. I instructed Mr. Lucas to gather my scuba equipment, medical pouch, GPS system, the satellite phone, and forest invader, a small parlor monkey whom I purchased in Bangalore. We followed the strange men into the village. This apparently was all just a trick, as we were thrown into nets and into the back of a gray Datsun, which had seen better days. This is the oldest trick in the book. By my judgment of distance, they drove us 10 to 15 miles north. They stopped the truck, and Mr. Lucas and myself were thrown out onto a paved road. The angry tribal men sped away, yelling God knows what in some strange ancient language. Not 20 minutes into walking north up the road, we were picked up by a caravan headed to Cairo. I say, the first good bit of news the entire day. They were glad to haul us and my equipment and pet along to Egypt. We arrived in Egypt some days later, on the almost exact opposite side of the continent that I had crash-landed on earlier. It is in Cairo where I would make arrangements that led me to try Tuscan whole milk. It's a lot of preamble, you know? I'm sort of about it, though. A mute servant named Mr. Lucas and a monkey named Forest Invader that he bought in Bangalore. He's an interesting fellow. Completely full of shit, but I'll listen to a schizoid Rambo for a little while. Mr. Lucas and I found our way to the Semiramis Intercontinental, where I purchased a 2-room suite. We dropped off our equipment and headed to the hotel bar. On my second glass of brandy, a man by the name of Mr. Grove, the only name that he gave, approached me and casually asked if I would be interested in a business deal. Of course, I asked, what of? And I say Mr. Grove needed to move 20 crates of Tuscan whole milk, which were in a refrigerated truck outside of the hotel. He offered $1,000 up front for the delivery of the boxes to his warehouse in South Africa. How strange are the hands that life deals. And also $1,000 on the safe return of the truck to Cairo. Of course, I had 2 things on my mind at this time. Retrieving my crashed monarch from that blasted village and getting off of this continent. I accepted immediately and used part of the payment to buy a trailer to haul back my glider to an airport in Cairo. You see, you need an engine aircraft to get the glider in the air. Yeah, either that or a giant throwing you really fast, but I don't see any giants around. Anywho, Mr. Lucas and I reached South Africa in a few days. The destination was Johannesburg, and by chance, it was only a 3-hour drive from my plane. While winding through the streets of Johannesburg, we were stopped by the South African Police Service, who demanded to examine the contents of the refrigerated truck. I've never known their men to be schooled in corruption, but the next thing I knew, Mr. Lucas and myself were in handcuffs and short 19 crates of whole milk. Of course, I bribed them for a few rand for our release, and we were on our way. There was no way the warehouse would accept the shipment now, so I used the remaining payment to hire a translator while I was in the city and floored the gas all the way to the village and its tribe. Upon arrival, I instructed the translator to demand their leader to turn over my beloved monarch, or we would be forced to contact the authorities. Good Mr. Lucas was ready to dial away at the satellite phone. I thought he was mute, though. What's he gonna say in the phone? Never mind, it's fine.
I've been getting death threats.
You undone me! You undone me on your wedding.
He dials it, he hands it to you. I'm sure that's how it works. A strange exchange went on between the translator and the elder. A few moments later, I was told that they would barter for it. Of course, I offered the contents of the truck, save for Forest Invader. The elder opened the door of the truck and took out a gallon of milk in order to see if the ivory nectar was to his liking. He immediately spit it out. He yelled some sort of ancient orders to a group of men standing next to my truck, and a few seconds later, a sea of torches flowed toward the field where my bird was perched. I knew what ill fate my glider would meet in the coming minutes. The tribe bagged us yet again, but this time we were dropped off at a different location, the burning wreckage of my glider. After the tribe drove away, Mr. Lucas chewed his way out of the netting and freed himself and the translator. After a few minutes of argument with the translator, I awarded him the truck as an apology for this mess, and he drove off, out of sight. Mr. Lucas could only chew that net because he's been chewing Tuscan milk his whole life. So there I was, a pilgrim in an unholy land, weeping in the ashes of my once cherished monarch, with only my satellite phone, forest invader, and Mr. Lucas by my side, trying desperately to enjoy the remaining gallon of Tuscan whole milk the tribe left for us, for they burned the rest of the crate. But I could not even muster a grin as the cruel odor of burning fiberglass forced me to cast a frown. This opaline swill in my hand was the true cause of my grief, and I could not force myself to fully take pleasure in what remained. I gave the remaining carton of milk to my faithful servant, who seemed to enjoy it enough. He gulped down what remained and quickly displayed the thumbs up, which, in his odd, mute ways, was a sign of appreciation. Wow, we're learning so much today.
Wow. I didn't know that. You're telling me now for the first time.
I'm glad you enjoyed the Tuscan liquid, Mr. Lucas, because I certainly did not. Well, yeah, you got hard feelings about it. I feel a certain type of way, too. And now, I hope you can see why I only afforded this milk 3 stars. I lost my glider, my scuba gear, my medical pouch, a part of my sanity, and over a week of my life, because Tuscan whole milk did not live up to the standards of some crude tribesmen of yesteryear. I still mourn about the event to this day, while Forest Invader gently weeps beside me. Wow, Forrest, the monkey outlived Mr. Lucas? That's pretty crazy. Crazy story, bro. Good luck with your burning fiberglass-flavored liquid. I don't think that's what he meant. The plane was on fire, right? But given all the shit that you went through, 3 stars may be actually pretty generous. Methinks Dr. Cornelius likes the milk more than he thinks. It's just your bad associations with the milk. That's your whole problem. Just drink some. Just drink a lot. Drink a lot until you throw up, and I'm sure that'll solve it. Next post. Another 3-star review. Blues in the bottle of Tuscan whole milk. I just finished another late night at the station. On the way back to the apartment, I stopped at my usual drinking hole, the Dairy Dipper. The Korova Milk Bar. It's giving some Clockwork Orange vibes.
This would sharpen you up and make you ready for a bit of the old ultra-violence.
I approached the bar. Without asking, Eddie 3 Udders Mahogany, the barkeep, was already eyeing me. The usual? He asked, and I replied with a sigh. Yeah, whole milk. Tuscan whole milk. Shaken, not pasteurized. Oh, you really should pasteurize that, please. He was about to walk away as I interjected, "Leave the bottle." Who was I kidding? I was a wreck. I still could not get Sarah off of my mind. Seemed like she was gone for an eternity, but left just yesterday, but how would I know? This stuff messes with my memory. She always said I had one boot in the force and one mouth on the other, and yeah, maybe she was right. Maybe we just weren't meant to be. Not in this old life. Between the constant investigations on the illegal breakfast market and my dairy habits, it's no wonder she never thought I had the time of day. I milked those thoughts of her gentle beauty for as long as I could before my real demons rose up. My thoughts spiraled toward my partner. Well, my ex-partner, Louis. He just got snuffed out by those bacon-banging breakfast dealers, Orange Juice McCoy, and 2-egg sausage links and a side of grits Jefferson. I'll look him in the eye if it's the last thing I do. Suddenly, a woman in a long black dress sits down next to me at the bar. She glances at my bottle, and then with a certain seductive look in her eyes, at me. A smooth passion burning in her eyes as she whispered to me, "Is that Tuscan whole milk?" I was taken aback for a second, as no one besides 3 Udders says a word in this sad excuse for a dispensary of dairy products. Why, yes, 1 gallon, 128 fluid ounces, I half-drunkenly replied. She smirked, and with a faint sense of satire in her voice, said, "I remember when I could get off on that stuff." Not realizing what she meant, I mistook her for being in the same boat as I, lost and lonely, clinging desperately to my Tuscan whole milk 1 gallon, 128 fluid ounces for dear life. It'll never be the same as back in the academy. We all started hitting the gallons pretty hard back then, I said, with a desperation in my voice clear enough for a deaf woman to know that I needed companionship badly. I poured a shot, and we toasted to our empty lives. Afterwards, we sat and gazed, not necessarily at each other, but not at anything else. Soon she looked up, and in a tone, Wait, I'm sorry. I'm way too drunk to finish this. Sorry, it's pushing 4 a.m. I can barely type anymore. I need some sleep. Spoiler alert, the mysterious woman was going to take our hero back to the apartment where he discovers she's in the midst of the illegal breakfast trade, and they were going to go snorting lines of pancake mix and smoking bacon, etc., etc. Maybe he was going to resign his badge and live a life of adventure and recreational breakfast use with what's-her-face. Who knows? Sweet dreams.
Goes from normal to a slightly upset meth addict / Michael Jackson.
Good effort, Kevin Reynolds. I am fucking distraught that you did not finish this, if I'm honest. That would have been so unhinged. Why? Why didn't you come back and finish it? Oh well, you can't always get what you want in this old life. But I'm gonna keep trying, that's what I know. Seems we've had a lot of negative reviews, but here's one from Jeremy Morgan. He says, 5 stars. This product changed my life. So, you get the other side of the coin or something. I'm not usually one to give in to the hype, but everyone keeps talking about this Tuscan milk and how it's the new Macarena. It's Texas Hold'em, low carbs, and reality TV all rolled into one. But this is one fad that is sure to last. Jeremy knows what he's talking about. Jeremy's got his fucking finger on the pulse. He's tapped into the zeitgeist, you see? Written in 2006, my God. 20 years later, I think it is still holding up. You were right all along, Jeremy. You've not been given the credit you're due. I bought my first gallon, and not being one for moderation, I ended up drinking the whole gallon one morning. I was just going to drink a glass before work and then be on my way, but 1 glass turned into 2, 2 turned into a bigger glass, and next thing I know, I was sprawled out on my living room floor next to the empty gallon. I stumbled up and made my way to the door, only to arrive at work and meet an angry boss. He said he was letting me go and that I was no longer a part of the vision. I was angry and very much disappointed. I loaded my things into my car and drove away. On the way home, my car started sputtering. All the lights came on, and my engine fell out while going down the freeway. Oops. I pulled to the side of the road and started walking. I certainly wasn't going to call a tow truck. Can't even afford it now. I then got the bright idea to call up my girlfriend. Upon answering, I could hear a man's voice in the background. She was out of breath and certainly had just come back from a long jog. I asked if she would come and pick me up, and she said she was indisposed at the moment. I then became more angry and asked her why not, and she promptly dumped me. Well, now the sex isn't as fun anymore because it's not technically cheating. Good for you, OP. That chick got a lot of problems, okay? With my belly still full of Tuscan milk, I plodded on toward my home. I started pondering why she was leaving me, and entertained the thought that it must have something to do with that man in the background. Who was he? Why was he there? Then it dawned on me. The truth, as I had then thought, had arrived. It's that damn Tuscan milk! I foolishly blamed the milk for all my problems. I lost my job, my car broke, my girlfriend left me all in one morning, and I thought that the milk was the cause. Hours later, I arrived at my home. Nice, I thought, as I spotted a 30-day notice. The thought of now getting kicked out of my house kind of made me smile. At this point, nothing could get worse, right? It's not like a gang of ninjas is gonna come in and end my whole family or something. If you didn't catch the sarcasm in that last paragraph, a gang of ninjas did indeed come in and kill my family. Got them all. Every last one, but still, at least I don't blame the milk now. You might ask, why, Jeremy? Why are you so jovial? The answer to that, my friends, is because I'm days away from becoming a millionaire. This whole situation will be erased. With my millions, everything will change. Fired from my job? Now I don't need one. Car broke down? I'll buy a Lexus instead. Kicked out of my house? To heck with renting. I'll buy a new one. Family dead? I'll buy a new one. Girlfriend left? I'll buy a... You get the picture. All my problems are solved. A few days ago, I received an email from the Prince of Nigeria. It appears their government is collapsing, and they need me to move $100 million out of their stat. So they researched, searching the world for a top secret financial mercenary to give the money to, and they found me. They must have heard about my skills, so they contacted me. I get, as a commission, 10% of the take, which, if you think about it, that is a pretty good deal for someone who is literally saving your country. I've given them the necessary banking information to the proper agents, and everything should be transferring soon. I'll hang out in the park where I live now and wait for that phone call.
Now we play the waiting game. No, the waiting game sucks.
Oh my god, this is gold. I want every Amazon review section to be exactly like this. Once I received that phone call, the money went through, and you're looking at a 10 millionaire. I think I'll go purchase some new duds. Maybe head down to Vegas and bet $10,000 a hand. I'll fly to Miami and dig my toes in the sand, or jet off to Hawaii for some fun in the sun. I'm here at the library, surfing Amazon, and I wanted to order some milk. For some reason, my ATM card wouldn't go through. It kept saying insufficient funds, even though there is money in there. It must be some kind of mistake. I'm off to the bank to ask them what's up, but first I thought I'd tell you all about the milk that saved my life. Recommended A+++++. And then, yeah, he couldn't get back on... They wouldn't even let him in at the library anymore. You don't got money for the dollar menu, you can't use McDonald's Wi-Fi either. We never heard from Jeremy again. He's living under an overpass. Or under an underpass? Oh, fuck, I fucked it up. I guess the moral of the story is that milk was the problem the whole time, you know? If your bones are too strong, then stuff like this happens to you. Life wants to throw a little more at you because it thinks your shoulders are strong, you know? Anyway, there's literally like at least 1,000 of reviews in this in this category. So if you guys want to see some more or know some fun Amazon products, go ahead and let me know, and I'll go a digging for you. There's Haribo gummy bears. There's a yodeling pickle. I'm sure there's tons of fun stuff. You just got to look backwards in time a little bit, because don't tell Gubbins I said this, but AI has taken over Amazon product reviews, and it's the most disappointing fucking thing in the world, you know? Nobody's doing this for fun anymore. They're doing it to make 10 cents because their favorite TikToker said that then they could get a free product or some shit like that. Where is the love of the craft, I guess, is what I'm saying. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the episode, friends. Sign up on the Patreon or the YouTube memberships. I'd appreciate that a whole heck of a lot, you know? There's an Amazon link to the Tuscan milk if you want to read those, and I can get paid if you actually buy something on Amazon after clicking that link, so if you'd like to help me out, that's neato. I should also mention there's merch over on Fourth Wall. I should also mention, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, you definitely deserve it, and I shall see you in the next one, so until then, bye-bye. With an intense craving for Tuscan dairy whole milk vitamin... I passed him a mug of Tuscan Dairy Whole Milk Vitamin D. I fucked it up again.